Tenants and advocates in California say that due to climate change and extreme temperatures, landlords should be forced to provide air conditioning for all of their units. But that will actually lead to less affordable housing and more of the carbon emissions they claim to want to reduce. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today. Once again, it's coming out of the state of California. So obviously, California, very far left-leaning, very progressive, very anti-property rights, very anti-landlord, okay? They see landlords as the rich people, and they hate rich people, and they just want to take their money and then, redistribute it, basically steal from them. So right now, I believe they're going through a heat wave, and they say it's an unprecedented heat wave, right? And they really need landlords to provide air conditioning for all their tenants, because they say that, hey, a quarter of all of the properties in California don't even have air conditioning. Well, I'm going to rip that statistic apart, okay, and tell you why it might be that 25% of the housing in California doesn't have air conditioning, and I'm going to tell you exactly why they shouldn't be putting those sort of mandates onto landlords to provide AC. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think, okay? Now, I'm not talking about what your personal preference is for your rental properties or whatever, right? But do you believe the government should mandate that landlords provide air conditioning? Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't, okay? And I've explained this before in other videos, but the way I see it is that the market dictates what is offered in a rental property, okay? So if the market dictates that, hey, I can rent these units out without AC in them, and then the tenants go and they get their own window unit so that I can charge a lower rent, well, that's what the market dictates, okay? But anyway, let's get into this article. It's coming from the Sacramento Bee, and it says, a quarter of California homes had no AC this heat wave. It could stay that way for years. Let's get into it. In her Stockton apartment, Esther Johnson has been freezing pots of water overnight for relief from California's historic heat. In the morning, she wraps them in towels, puts them at the foot of the couch, and blasts them with fans to create some cool air. It was 107 degrees outside on Tuesday, the day several cities broke all-time heat records. Inside, it was 96 degrees. Californians blasted their air conditioning so much this week they nearly overwhelmed the state's electricity grid. For many of the 24% of households across the state without AC, each day has been a misery and a health hazard. So yeah, they have had, unprecedented heat wave. People are running their air conditioning, and guess what? When you run your AC that much, it is going to put a lot of pressure on the electric grid. So when they say, hey, we want landlords to, provide AC for all of their tenants so that they're not hot, well, they have to realize that, hey, unless you upgrade the electrical grid, unless you build more, power facilities, we're going, that isn't going to be helpful. It's not going to help anything. It's going to lead to brownouts and, a shortage of power for everyone, okay? And, I'm not saying that they shouldn't go ahead and do that, because I have always believed, hey, we need to have an electrical system in place for, future growth, for future needs, etc. What I am saying is that, the same people who are pushing landlords, there are all these sort of regulations on landlords, haven't obviously thought through all of the other implications, all the other factors that, the additional surge of electricity use by these apartments is going to cause, okay? When you go into a sauna, it's like that, said Johnson, 64, who is recovering from double knee surgery. Her AC unit has been broken since June, and her landlord isn't rushing to fix it. My face is dripping and everything. California law and building codes require residential units to maintain temperatures of 70 degrees inside during cold weather, but there is no requirement for air conditioning or other cooling mechanisms to keep residents safe from the extreme heat, which is quickly becoming our routine heat. Robert Brooke Munoz, director of San Joaquin Fair Housing, said immediate help is needed for renters whose landlords aren't fixing AC units simply because the law doesn't require them to. Well, the way I see it is a little bit different, okay? The grand majority of landlords, and I said this in my other video on this exact same topic, right, where they were trying to pass a law in Florida over this same issue. The grand majority of landlords are providing AC already. There is no need for this law, okay? And the landlords who aren't providing AC, they have a good reason for doing it. Now, one of those reasons might be that, hey, housing in California is extremely expensive, okay? And for that reason, not providing AC might offer the ability for a tenant to get a unit and afford it. Okay, you provide that AC, and guess what? The tenant might not be able to afford it anymore because now you're charging extra for that extra amenity. Not only that, but hey, the electric bill shoots up exponentially when you're running that AC all the time. So the tenant might not be able to afford that electric bill either. So rather than just put this blanket mandate on top of landlords, they need to really look at the situation and say, hey, is this needed? Is this needed? If 99% of landlords are already providing AC for their tenants, because that is the truth, 99% of landlords are already providing AC for their tenants, then why are we putting this law in place? Now, they said earlier that 24% of the households across the state don't have AC, but notice what they left out there. Is that rental households or is that all households? Okay, so and then when you think about it, you're like, hey, you're right. They didn't say that was only the rental. So that includes owner-occupied homes and rentals. So yeah, we have some owner-occupied people who don't have AC as well. And we have some people who are living in rentals who don't have AC. Then we have to consider the fact that, hey, not all of California is located in the desert regions down below. Once you go way upstate to upstate and in the mountains and all that, it's a lot cooler in some of these places, and they might not feel they need AC in some of those places. Okay, not saying that's the case. Other places they might say, hey, you can have AC, the landlord is not going to be the one who provides it, so you have to get your own window unit if you want it. I know some landlords who do that. Okay, I provide my own window units for liability issues for the installation and everything for my properties that need it. So, but I'm not saying that other landlords are following the same thing. So then I want to throw in the fact that, hey, I lived in Arizona for 4 years, right? And there were a lot of properties in Arizona that didn't have air conditioning. And Arizona's a lot hotter than California in general. But you know what those units did have? A lot of them had the roofs built on them that were purposefully, I can't remember what they call it. They're like metal roofs that they put on top of these houses, and they dissipate heat a lot better than a traditional roof, right? And they would put swamp coolers, okay? Now, I don't even know if a swamp cooler would qualify as AC or not, right? And people outside of those areas, they might not even know what a swamp cooler is, right? But it is a device that is not an air conditioner that actually cools down a house. Okay, so keeping all that in mind, there's plenty of reasons why, 24% of the units in the state don't have air conditioning. Okay, so interesting stuff, but the big thing for me is making sure that landlords don't get stuck with the bill. Now let me continue here because it goes into some of this climate change stuff that I'm in high disagreement with it, and I'll explain exactly what my logic is as we go along, right? There's got to be tighter laws and regulations on air conditioning, especially because of the heat and our changing climate, said Brooke Munoz, who has been getting daily calls from tenants about broken cooling systems. This is the worst I've seen it. Extreme heat is the most deadly symptom of climate change, primarily impacting low-income renters and the elderly. Despite California's reputation as a strong regulator, the state has moved to slowly create temperature standards that would enforce cooling the same way it does heating. So yeah, they start bringing up this climate change stuff, right? Well, here's the problem with that. Simply put, right, the more air conditioning, the more power that people are using, right, that is going to put a bigger draw on the electrical system, and renewables, they just can't keep up. Okay, so we're going to create more of the carbon emissions, more of the problem that they're trying to eliminate. What they want to do is the exact opposite. Okay, this is what the far left, the progressives, really want. They want us to use less power. They want us to all shut off our air conditioners permanently. They want us all sweating our butts off all summer and suffering in the summer heat so that the climate doesn't get destroyed. Meanwhile, on the other end, they're, oh, well, the extreme heat, we need air. No, we can't have air conditioning. We can't have cars. We got to give up our cars and all ride on, trains. No, you can't have your own house. You got to live in a apartment block, in a 40-story tower. No, you can't. You can't do anything. You can't enjoy your life. We're gonna all, And when you think about it, right, you're like, hey, all this climate change stuff. It really sounds a lot like socialism, like communism, and that is the truth. Okay, that's what all this climate change stuff really is. And these people, they're obviously confused because they think that, because of climate change, we have to adapt. No, we can't adapt. We have to suffer. That's what the climate change people want. They want us to suffer, okay? And they're hitting you hard, by not forcing the air conditioning because they want more of us to give up air conditioning. They want us all to be sweating it out every single summer, and that is ridiculous.